Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Building Depth Circles call. For those of you that are brand new to this call, you are in for a treat tonight. I'm Sarah Smith coming in from Liberty, Utah. You guys, I've been with LifeVantage. My husband and I have been here for 14 years, if you can believe that. It was our first rodeo in network marketing. And we are blessed because of our mentorship. We are blessed to be part of this business from kind of the start of our journey in network marketing to where we are. And honestly, if the nurse practitioner who is literally helping us with a health crisis did not mention the business, I don't even know if I'd be here right now. So I am super grateful for the information that you're going to hear tonight. And honestly, we are, I'm honored to be on this Zoom and hosting two presidentials in our line that have absolutely changed our life, and we're forever grateful. Blue Elam will be breaking down kind of his circles. And for those of you that are brand new, the circles are basically like the leadership that's growing in depth. And, as you plug into building depth, you learn it's all about the relationships. It's all about the system in place. And Marcell Niederhauser, who, again, both of these presidentials have spent a lot of time in the industry, but their home is right here at LifeVantage. And the numbers of lives that they've impacted, the level in which they're showing up, you guys realize they do not have to be on a Zoom here tonight with us. We're just grateful that they are plugged in and they care. They care about our success. And honestly, like their mentorship has made it possible for Chris and I to be able to teach people how to teach. And that's really what this is about. It's about teaching people to teach, and it's about changing lives, and to have a system to plug into where anyone can plug in, whether you've got a GED or a PhD, you've got a path to run on. You have a roadmap to success. So with that, I get the pleasure of introducing Marcell Niederhauser, our presidential. Like I said, he has changed so many lives. He's been such a mentor to us. We're super grateful. And he's going to break down and talk about the system, the principles and behaviors that he brought to this company and put into play, and has one of the biggest organizations in the company right now. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Marcell. Take it away.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot for those kind words. I appreciate you and your beautiful husband. Love you, girl. You guys, I just want to take a few minutes and I want to talk to you something that's very important. I'm just on a date with my lovely wife. So I told her to pull over before we lose service. But we talk about these every time we get on a call. We talk about these every time we go to building depth. And those five key components, or those five key ingredients that transform our lives. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And one of the things I can say is these principles and behaviors help me become the person I am today. They tested me. They held me accountable. They taught me things that I just didn't quite know about being a leader. And one of the things, in order to build a network marketing company, you have to have you got to be a leader. You got to develop leadership skills. And the definition of leadership, does anybody know? All right, I'll tell you, is getting others to follow you. And that's probably one of the biggest obstacles in this industry, is becoming the person that other people will follow. And that's why these principles and behaviors are so important. So the number one thing we talk about in the very beginning is giving this information 15 times or more a month. And I want to illustrate, when you get started and you're using your names list, sometimes it's hard to get the 15 a month, but you keep going until you sponsor five people that want to do what you're doing. Once those people get in and you start working with them and start helping them, then all of a sudden you're doing way more than 15 a month if you're actively building your business. And so that's what we mean when we say 15 minimum. You try to do that the best you can. But without number one, the rest of the principles behaviors don't even matter. Because if you don't build a foundation, then you have nobody to practice those on. And that's right. You're when you're brand new in this, you're practicing. And when you're stuck at a certain level, you're still practicing. So if you're an MC1 and you've been an MC1 for a long time, you're still practicing, you're still learning, you're still developing skills. And I got to tell you, those five things completely are the reason why I've had the success that I've had in this industry. And number two is you always do what you say you're going to do. And that means everything in life. It's not just based around this business. It's kind of like a principal behavior that if you aren't good at that, you can get good at that. And that was one thing I struggled with a lot when I first got started. I've always been the type of person, if I make a promise, I do it. If we shake hands, it's a done deal. This is before I got into network marketing. And along the way, I was blown away about how many people could say they were going to do something and then their actions were completely different than that. And at first, I was kind of ignorant to people because of it. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. If you say you're going to do something, I just assume you're going to do it. And so when people wouldn't do that, I felt it was my job to help them fulfill their obligation. And then that's where I came up with if things aren't growing fast enough or it's not working the way you want to, go sponsor five more. Because when you get to the point where you're bossing people around or telling them what to do, whatever it is, they start to ignore you. They quit taking your phone calls and they quit. And I'd have to go out and replace them. And I did that for a very long time. And um, what I realized is, I have my goals and I have what I want, but I'm not going to depend on somebody else that our goals don't line up, and I'm not going to let them affect the way that I do business or not. And so instead of putting pressure on them or instead of getting mad, I just started listening, not really listening. I heard what they said, but I actually focused on what they did. So I quit listening and I started watching. And that helped me out a lot because then I could analyze and figure out, okay, this person wants it, this person doesn't. I'm not going to apply pressure over here. I'm just going to keep inviting them, plug them into the system, get them to come to all the events, and maybe one day that might change. But I'm telling you, it's a lot easier to build this business with people that want to build it. And right now, that's what I'm looking for. People that want to do what I'm doing right now. And then number three is stay in control of your business. And when Blue goes through all the circles tonight and demonstrates what he's done over the last 16 years here and actually in his whole career in this industry, um, he'll really cover that. But staying in control of your business to me is not if I'm doing the principles and behaviors and I'm developing these skills and I'm getting better at doing the presentation and I'm getting better at doing the follow up and so on and so forth. When I get a brand new person in, why don't I take what I've already learned and go work with them and help them by building my business and help them build their business instead of waiting for them to go through their learning curve and start to develop that. And I do that as Blue shows you his circles tonight. He's going to show you how many circles are in depth and what they're doing. I do that all the way through the organization, the people I sponsored, the people they sponsor, the people they sponsor. And I just keep going down. I try to get my legs to 100 deep. That's where you develop and find the leadership that's going to take your business to the presidential level. I realized a long time ago, I don't know. Well, I'm not going to go with that. So, anyway, these learning that it took me, I've shared this so many times, but it took me 14 years in this industry. I was introduced when I was 26 years old. It took me 14 years to get to the point where I could go full time in the business. I sold my landscaping maintenance company at that time. And, that is a long time, you guys, 14 years. I've been in the industry 36. In the last 22 years, I've been financially independent. I've been actually part of, I was able to sell that business, come home with Lisa, and raise our kids. And I've got pictures of that. I won't show you that tonight, but I got pictures of my children right when we were getting ready to sell that business and I became a full-time dad. And I share that with you, you guys, is because that was my why. My why is at 26 years old, somebody comes over and shows me the Amway business. And I've never heard of network marketing. I didn't even know what it was. I thought I found the golden goose. But that night was the first time in my life at 26 years old, somebody came in and showed me that I do not have to work for somebody else for the rest of my life if I don't want to. And I didn't know this message was given that night, but this is what I've learned over the time. And it's up to me. I can make this thing happen. I don't have to wait for somebody else to do it. I can go find the people that want to do it now, and nobody's controlling me. Tell me when I can go to the bathroom or when I can go on a break or if I can have Christmas off or any of that stuff. It was totally up to me. I can do this. And then obviously, I was involved with other people that were helping me and supporting me. And so um, these are a big deal. These will help transform your life. And all you do is you just adopt them and apply them into your life and do your best, the very best you can to live up to those. That's it. That's all we're asking you to do. The 15 every month. Yeah, that's how you're going to build a foundation so that you can build yourself to the presidential. Always doing what you're saying you do, staying in control of your business. Um, Promoting is one of them too, but those things are what help you become and develop into the leader. Are you guys tracking with me on this? I'm trying to break this down so simple. Those are the things that help for you to develop into the leader that other people will follow. I've had so many conversations with people, and I've watched people along the years get so frustrated about not being able to make this work. But yet, when you look at these simple 5 things that we're talking about, they're not applying them all, or they're only doing it halfway. And you know, I don't know how. Well, I do know how I was able to change is because I wanted this industry so bad because of the financial freedom it gives you. I choose how I live my life now. It was because of those 5 things. They taught me everything. Network marketing, I had to learn that. But the principal behaviors taught me how I can use a vehicle like that and master it and be able to have the opportunities and choices in my life that I have today. So I'm very, 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 they are very important in my life. Those those 5 things. And every time I talk, that's all I talk about. And that's kind of the message I'm trying to get across to you guys is that's what you focus on. You focus on the behaviors and the principles and the results will come. So anyway, with that being said, Sarah, I'm going to turn this back over to you. Um, I appreciate your guys' time tonight. I love this industry. I On the 15th of every month for the last 16 years, I've gotten a check from LifeVantage. And that is the reason why I made all the sacrifices I had to, left my family, did the things I needed to do to get this business done, is that's what I was shooting for. Now, that was a great goal. I love it. We just got paid yesterday. Imagine that. Just got paid yesterday. But what's happened that's even just as important is all the relationships that I've built and all the friendships I have on here and the little microscopic role I've played in their lives to help them develop their businesses and the people that have been able to come home and be full-time moms and dads. That's just about as big as getting that check every month. And I've been 36 years is a long time, you guys. And I've been around block. I know what to do, what not to do. I wanted this business so bad in the very beginning. I was willing to try everything. And watching brand new people get in and they get excited and they have all these ideas. I did all that so you guys don't have to. I did made all the mistakes so you guys don't have to. And but you know what? We're rebels by nature. That's human nature. And some of us have to learn everything the hard way. But that's what this whole program's about. I got the idea way back when. I went to a bunch of people, shared with them what I thought we needed to do, and let's teach people how to build this business. Let's teach them all of the fundamentals that will help them become and develop into the people that other people want to follow. So, that being said, Sarah, I could just keep talking. Love you guys. Appreciate you. It's good to see all your faces. I'm just scrolling through right now. And back at you, girl.
All right. Thank you so much for being in reception. We know how that is. So thank you. Thank you, Lisa. We're sending love your way, my dear. And thank you so much for taking time, Marcel. It's, it sounds really simple, the 5 principles and behaviors. And once you start really kind of holding that mirror up to yourself and your business, there's always a place you can work a little harder, do a little bit more. And that's really what it comes down to. So with that, we're going to pass this over to Blue Elam. I'm not sure where he's coming in from. I do know he has got a lot going on in his life. But he, again, right alongside Marcel, have really shown us the way, been an example of what we want to be. I mean, he's loading up like an 18-wheeler truck to deliver goods to Mexico for, the people in Mexico that they're building houses for. And I mean, they're just up to good all the time. And we're just really grateful that you get to share your circles, Blue. I'm excited. So I'm gonna pass this over to you. Let me know if you need anything.
All right.
Yes. You coming in okay, Blue?
There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize on the lighting here. I'm gonna try to fix some of this as we go, but um awesome. I just wanted to make sure we're first of all connected here. I have so much on my mind, and even more after Marcel takes some time to share with us and share his thoughts. I think it's incredible to 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 see that. I mean, here Marcel is sitting there going on a date tonight and takes the time to stop and share with us. And I'm glad you mentioned where we're heading, because every year we take the time to um, collect throughout the year. We take time to collect a bunch of goods and stuff for people, and we store it in a store shed in a shed for the entire year. And then what we do is we take it down to Mexico or different places. This year we happen to be heading down there, and so we fill up a trailer full and we go down. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I think it might be easier just to write a check and send it somewhere. Sometimes it's a lot of work, but I can tell you that the value in the sacrifice and my kids helping and serving and loading and unloading and delivering and um, watching people have to hand it to them, right? And watching them literally get to put their hands on some of this stuff. It is unreal. It is my why, or it is what my why has slowly turned into. And I think you're going to hear some stuff tonight that's on my mind. I hope it comes out right, because our why has grown and has adapted and changed as we went. And I think that's part of it, is to watch how that why molds and adapts as we go, and it gets bigger. Our first reason for doing this was to just check some boxes and put my family in a position of comfort, and then very quickly we end up realizing that some of those things are checked off and we're okay. And then instantly you start thinking about others. What to expand our reach? What can we do to help more people? And include others in and going down and building with your hands and doing things. I'll start with this quote. If you guys are writing stuff down tonight, the first value is that I don't know of anything in my life that has true value that didn't require loads and loads of sacrifice. I think of the things most valuable, and maybe yourself, you can do the same. What's most valuable in your life? And I think of my relationship with my spouse, my children, the things of value. I'm not talking financial value. I'm talking true value, right? And they all took sacrifice. And I think when we give, we can do the same. So, Marcell, thanks for the introduction. Sarah, thank you as well. I get the chance tonight to talk through a little bit of a story, a little bit of a concept of us growing our business and what we started with. And when we say our circles, I think that's a fun way to label this idea that we build and we build in depth and we work down and we work down and we find someone and we do it again and we work down and we find someone and we think we're working forever and we don't find anyone, and then all of a sudden somebody pops in and then we find someone. And when I heard that the end of the year call was coming and we get a chance to share, I was excited to be able to talk to you about this, because we have been taught to do this. Marcell's interesting story down to us is probably the start of our story, is how long it took for him to work his way down years and years of people and experiences and one-way trips that when someone didn't show up, and plane tickets that cost money and travel money that was spent on fuel. And I mean, you guys have heard the stories, but that it took all of that to get to us. So our story starts years and years into a bigger story. And then I think of our story, and it's fun to think back on, because I look at the leaders on this call, praying for them, looking for them, trying to find them a long time ago, hoping that all these efforts would turn into something. And then you realize years later, looking back, that it did. We have leader back by leader back by leader in multiple legs, 5 different legs in our organization, that helps lead to a very stable and substantial business. To put this in a little bit of light, I want to just share a quote that I want to talk about leadership for a minute, because this will make sense when I start talking tonight. You've heard me say it a lot. I'm going to say it again, is that most good leaders, right? I think good leaders are close enough to relate, but they're just far enough ahead to inspire. Marcell does a great job at that. He's vulnerable. He'll share from his heart. He'll inspire us with stories. And he always seems just outside of reach, right, of reality. Man, you get to have Christmas every single month, right? It's those little phrases of what we learn. And then to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, it took me years to get to where you guys are at, or it took me 12 years to find this one person. And I mean, you get to hear the real stories as well. That vulnerability is sometimes hard as a leader, because we want to just stand out all the time. But I think you're going to realize that that's one thing about all the leaders in this circle, is that they're willing to say, hey, this took time. This was hard. This took sacrifice. This wasn't easy. And you'll hear the same from me. So if I say something that sounds like it was simple, I'm not saying it because it was. It's probably just to shorten it up and get to the next point. But the other thing is, I'll share tonight, because I think these go together, is that most people negotiate the price of success so long that they would have been there by now if they would have just paid it. Too many times we negotiate that price. Sometimes it's literal. What price do I need to pay to get in? Can I buy a smaller package? Do I really have to travel that far? Can I do it on Zoom instead of going there, right? Sometimes it's a literal cost. But the real price we're talking about is the sacrifice. Back to my first point, that if you want this to be truly valuable, you're going to have to sacrifice, and it's going to have to mean something. You'll stay longer. You'll be here forever when you work that hard to hold on to something. When we started, Marcell told us about this. Marcell and Tyler, we got involved, and luckily we had about a 3-month window of a pre-launch. Pre-launch meaning that we had time to get involved, talk through a couple situations, get out and meet people prior to people actually signing the dotted line. They signed a contract, but their card wasn't going to be charged for a while. So we had this window of time where we could just go gather and help them gather because in one day, my card was going to go through. The people that we enrolled, their card was going to get charged. The people they enrolled, their charge was going to get card. And a week later, we were going to get paid for all that effort. So there was a reality that your card gets charged, and the very week later, you get all your money back from the efforts that you did. And that was a pre-launch. Pre-launches are unique. They're tough. I mean, we were writing down names and social security numbers and credit card numbers on notebook paper, and you can imagine there's no product, there's no one's been paid yet. I mean, it's its own set of challenges. Some people think, oh, you're lucky you're in a pre-launch, and I'm like, yeah, you can call it luck, but there's a lot of different types of concerns and hurdles we had to overcome. But we ran 25 people in the 90 days we put into this company. We opened that first day with over $100,000. So we if you can put that into the ranks, and at the time it was pro ranks, and we hit the ability to hit an elite rank at the time. That was our big push. If you see some of the emails, everyone was trying to hit that. Things have adapted a little bit, but just going back and telling the story, I think it's important to know that we did that the first month. The second month, everything dropped down to subscriptions, and we were about 60 or 70, and next month about 90, and by the fourth month we were in that rank solid and running and going. And that was enough to go home to my family and say some of the goals that we set are good. Some of the things that we committed to as a family, we can check off. Now, that initial enrollment phase was just us finding the people we needed and maybe helping them get down maybe one more generation. But that's not the circle story, right? The circle story is that constant bigger picture of us taking that effort and learning and doing and teaching, right? It's the concept that we always talk about, where we learn and we show up at meetings, we take notes, we listen while someone else does a presentation, and then eventually we're the ones up there doing the presentation, and we're the ones physically there, and we're doing the work, and we have the marker in our hand, and we're not relying on someone else. We have to, because the person we're relying on, I cannot rely on Marcell to go do meetings for those 25 people that I just put in. Can rely on him to do that for me, right? It was my business. I relied on him to help me define them a little bit. He came out and did meetings, and I put them in a room, and he helped me validate and give third party to what we were doing. But then I had to take them and be the validation for them. And that process of learning and doing and then teaching them to do the same started to roll, started to replicate, I think you want to say. But to me, it was this duplication effort of teaching someone to do what I did. And when they were doing what I did last week, and now they're doing it this week, then I knew I had something ahead of me. It was fun to be able to watch that process take place. Now, not super easy, but because we had to learn along the way, and you're learning new things constantly as you go. But it was required that I did the work first, and then I could lean on others to do the work while I was the one maybe taking the next group of people that I enrolled through the process. Because what happens is you have a lot of different groups, and as you run one group down that line, and you get them to a point where they can sustain and be where they need to be, then you have another group that might be brand new, and they're asking the new questions, right? Every time you enroll somebody, you get the list of what I would consider the new questions to be, and they're tough, right? I mean, they're not hard questions. It's just hard to go back and say, okay, I got someone asking the very, very basic questions again, and that's what happens. And so you end up with one team that might be running, and I'll give you some of these circles here in a minute to help identify and line this out. But when we had, there we go. See if this helps a little bit. Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm trying to keep my my mic working here. So what becomes part of the process is you may be learning or doing the work for one team, and then when you enroll a brand new person, you're now in the process of doing it for them, and they may take the reins early on. So I'm gonna give you a few names of our frontline people and see if this is kind of fun. You guys know Chris Michaels, right? You guys know Dondi Nettles. You guys know I'll say Brandon Cunningham because he's one of our legs, but there was a few people that led to him, and I'll explain that here in a minute. And you guys down from Dondi, you guys know Dan Mollerine, and then Chris and Sarah. And then there's a part of the story I don't think you guys know that I'll tell you tonight that I'll be a little vulnerable in telling you because it's important. And then you guys know people like Marsha Livingston. There's an entire group under there. But the fun part about all these people is the people, they didn't come all at once, right? The first 25 people were just the leaders, and I worked through them and ended up in a different state, sometimes a different country. And it was very interesting. So tonight I want to talk circles, but I want to do one other thing that I don't normally hear when people talk circles, and it's the concept of firewalls. I'll touch on it now. I'll bring it back up at the end, and I want to make sure to cover that because that's probably one of my passions is to make sure you understand the firewall concept. I usually teach that mainly to leaders that have between $10,000 and $20,000 in volume, and I think it starts to become important. But if we build our entire business with that in mind, I think it's definitely the right way to build. So I'll come back to that a little bit, but this entire time I'm building what's called firewalls, and it'll make sense when I talk about it here in a minute. But I want to tell you one group that we had, and it'll be kind of fun because we had a group that started in Phoenix. I lived in Tucson, and I went up and we sponsored Dondi, and at the same time we were out east. There was a group out there, and that's where Dan and Dan's business partner at the time came from. And I don't want to confuse you with old names and people, but just to know that maybe the distance between the two, it might help to know that we had people that we committed to out east, far east, Boston and Maine, and that group started to grow. And then we had a group there in Phoenix that went into Texas that ended up spreading down into Australia, all kinds of places. But the fun part was we showed up where the energy was. We got excited. We helped them build a very good database. And we end up building relationships all over the country. And when we end up with people, and I say carefully that they're more qualified. I've since learned them, at the time, maybe I felt that way. And I think in this industry, when we hear a doctor so-and-so or CPA or someone who's educated, we think, oh my gosh, they're so much better than us or more educated than us. And I've learned to be careful with that because any of you guys can run circles around someone with a set of titles or letters in their name, probably be out of just spite or the ability to go run. We built this without business cards and without all the education and all the things that sometimes we think we have to do this. It's not required. And sometimes it'll actually help you to when you're teaching people, when they realize that you don't need all of those things to be successful. And sometimes it's a hindrance. But at first it was fun to have some of these people popping in our organization, explaining the product better than we thought we could. They were explaining the business and the structure in ways that were awesome. I found this guy that studied at Harvard and ended up with a business degree. And he said, I have been looking my entire life for these principles of business to line up into a company. And you walk in, we were in high school together, and I went off and fought fires, and he went off and went to school, and we circled back around, and he ended up in our organization because he was looking for a company that had a list of principles that he learned at Harvard. And when we showed him the timing, the company, the trends, the product, this compensation and a training system, and he said, man, when you line these things up, it's not very often that some company has all of these things at one time. And so we started attracting people. When I say better than ourselves, we just started attracting people in certain areas. They had spent their entire life studying and ending up back to where we were, back to the same concepts and principles that we were teaching. They found and realized that was what this business and big businesses are made of. And there was a couple times in those meetings in Phoenix with that same group, you guys, that I literally walked in, and one time there was, I think, 54 people in a big living room in a house, standing room only.
In the front, we had a guy that looked like he came in off the street, homeless guy, that he heard there was some free snacks and food, and he rolled in, and super nice guy. We ended up loving on him and having a good time. There was a couple, 4 or 5 single moms with a bunch of little kids, and kids were kind of back in the playroom so that they could pay attention, and they were wanting to make a few $100s. So you had a guy there for free food. You had a couple there looking for a few $100s a month to help cover some food and stuff for the kids. And then we had 3 guys in the back in business suits who made millions of dollars. And if we couldn't show them 6 figures a month, they were walking out. And here's a business that, you know, and here we are as our background as a medic, and we're working down in depth, and we end up in somebody's house from our organization. You walk in, we had no idea this was going to happen. And then we realized that you have all that diversity in one room. And it was fun to be able to relate to all of them. Our compensation plan, this industry can relate to all of them. The person in the front that wanted a social system had it instantly, had a group of friends and people that were loving on him and supporting him. And the moms could see quickly how to make some money and support what they needed. And then the guys in the back, we got done. And you know, one of them actually signed up on the spot. And I went back and I asked the question. I was like, hey, I just got to ask. I said, we just shared a lot of information and you signed up that fast. I said, I'm curious as to why. I mean, I know you make, I kind of know where you work and what you make. And he said, yeah, I make that much money because I see opportunity. And you must not understand what you just shared if you're asking me why I'm signing up, because he said, that is where I got to where I'm at, is I find opportunities that line up this well. And that's why I'm where I'm at. And I understood, but it was fun. I wanted kind of the story for someone at that level to tell me why they were jumping in. And it validated everything we taught. We have the principles that people need, and they are able to jump in and at any level go and find that success. So that led down to some very, very big people farther down in our organization. We would then talk to them and say, how can I help, right? One thing I did not do is take the reins from them. If somebody sponsored them, I didn't say, hey, I'll just be at your house and I worked at the bottom of the organization, but I didn't do it by myself. I worked at the bottom of the organization with that person's sponsor or with a few leaders between them and us, because I wanted to always help them to be building leadership. I knew that I wouldn't be around forever, right? Or I might need to go commit like we did to Australia. When Australia went to launch, I was out there. I did 12 trips to Australia, okay? And when I'm gone there, it's a long commitment, and I can't have everyone back in the States waiting on the meeting to happen when I show up. So I just never went down and worked on my own. I always went down and worked with other people and developed and edified so that if I left, there was a leader there that could take the reins and do their 15 presentations a month. And there was times, you guys, and I wish I had some screenshots. I might actually have them. The Big Blue Calendar there was nights there was 30, 40 meetings on that list. You guys. There was some big groups. You guys remember back in the early days. And it was fun to look down that list and realize that sometimes there was 25 of those meetings in our organization going on in any single given night, and with leaders that were taught and trained, and they were doing their own presentations. They were being mentored by someone else in some cases, someone that we had taught and mentored, and now they were doing the mentoring. And when you see someone down 8 or 10 levels in your organization doing those presentations, it was less about just the circles and who was next and how long it took to find who and all those things, which is part of everyone's story. But it was more about having a depth and having somebody 15 levels down doing exactly what you used to do last month, whether you were there or not, right? And they were teaching the same things. When you asked someone, I was at a meeting, it was one of the building depth events here recently, and there was someone, I think I looked it up, and I can't remember if it was in the 42 or 52 levels, but it was way down our organization. And they were chanting the same 5 principles that we were teaching our brand new people. When you have that kind of consistency down in your organization, it doesn't change each month. It's not the message of the minute, right? Or this idea that something's going to just pop up because of a promotion, and we're going to change our strategy and then try to change it back after the promotion ends. You're going to find yourself in a world of hurt if you're trying to change that many people and change the direction of a big ship that you're shipping down the road and moving down the road with. If you're trying to change all of that every single time a promotion comes up. But when the promotion lines up with what we're doing, and we're able to um, to be consistent and still hit the promotion, then I'm all in. There's certain promotions you'll find us push very, very hard because they line up directly with what we've been teaching and what we believe in. That's very fun to be able to teach, because it's not going to change a strategy, and we don't have to try to reteach from us down 52 levels after the promotion's over. And so the circles and depth happen when that consistency starts at the top. And in the situation that I was just mentioning, starting in Phoenix and ending up out with Dan, you guys know that years later we led down to Chris and Sarah. Now they're hosting the call, they're doing the meetings, I'm taking notes from them, right? Then you got Candy Crush down, you have, so I'm trying to think of each group here. Then you have people that are down in the organizations, and Rob and Summer, I saw their faces here too. A whole nother group, right? Let me just follow this one through to Candy, so I wanted to bring something about her. We've started working with a person who ended up not being too interested in the business, but had already enrolled some people. And one of the people they enrolled was Rob and Summer. And Rob and Summer were working with this individual, and they decided to go do something else. And in this case, Marcell, when he talked firewalls, we'll talk to that, had built some relationships and had just been out there. We had been on the phones and ready to come out there. Our accident changed a few things, but it was interesting to see the depth now from that organization. When we show up at a building depth event, I don't know what percentage, but you guys have seen some of the camouflage shirts and those things. When you see that many people down to Candy, and those people, leader back by leader back by leader, and in multiple states, and people doing it on their own. That all started from an organization that was right there in Tucson, that led to someone out in Montana that had their initials in their name, and found a real business owner with Robin Summer, and ended up, Rob at the time, but ended up turning into an organization that's unstoppable. And I don't have to be there and babysit and help. I support when I can, but that entire organization down, and you guys know those faces, so it's kind of fun to talk about. So when you look at an organization like that, I'm trying to quickly build these, because I looked just now on our organization, guys, and I'll just give you some of the numbers of each leg. We looked up one leg, and it was about $1.5 million in volume. I looked up another group, and there was about 400,000 in volume. I looked up our other leg, and there was like 350, and I looked up another group, and it was about 250. Then I looked up a fifth group, which is kind of cumulative of 5 or 6 different little groups, and there was over 200. And I started realizing how fun it is to have a couple $1 million in total sales every month, not coming from 1 or 2 groups, but it's coming from 5 separate teams. And in some cases, I'll say that the growth in those teams are coming from the ones that follow simple principles and are at building depth and doing those. But when you have each of those, and I say groups because there's individual legs, 4 individual legs, and then a 5th group that I call that is built of 5 or 6 legs, but it's all total volume cumulative. And when you have that kind of stability, each of those groups some are doing their own thing. I have you guys know some of those individuals I've mentioned and some of the systems they're doing and involved in, and you become a supporter of all the different groups in your organization. But it is fun to be able to realize that their very first meeting, hands folded, people sitting there wondering what's going on and should I get involved, and then later having them get involved, open their database, enroll 5 or 10 people themselves, and then us go build the firewall concept. I'll slowly keep building in here and build relationships and build these things, and then have them decide to maybe to leave or do something else, but you already have relationships with the people they brought in, and it ends up holding that volume strong. And I'll give you one really personal example real quick, and then I'll move on to these other few legs to finish the circle story, because you guys need to realize that I don't want to tell these stories and be like, oh my gosh, it's so out of reach, because we started with the same handful of people like you guys all have. I think we just went out and did a whole lot of work in a very short period of time, something that maybe a few people aren't willing to do. And it showed, because we created a massive momentum early on. And that momentum we held on to and rode its coattails for a long, long way when you get things moving like that. But how would it feel, I guess, to you guys to build up a group? Because we had, at the time, it was a Pro 10 in our organization. We had built and worked with and had developed in Tucson, and got them to a point. I don't know the income at the time. It was over $50,000 a month, but we had a group that we were working with, and we noticed that they started building a little different. Started not following the system. Started changing some of the idea of the month kind of thing. Started creeping in, and their teams kept calling. And I noticed the confusion because people started calling me very often and saying, this isn't what I learned. This isn't working. This isn't what I was taught by you guys. And I just said, well, I'm doing a meeting here. I'm doing a training. We have now our LVAs on Saturday. Come, we'll train you. And I started building relationships, and I built it with over 20 people down in that organization, not because I just went looking and tried to pull them away from what was going on, but because they were confused and wanted help. Very, very similar to what you guys are going to find as you build here. You're going to find people that say those 5 principles aren't being taught, and this will be a safe place for them to come, safe place for them to come and to build and to feel comfortable. Those individuals were now presidentials, but Pro 10s in the company, and decided to make some changes and wasn't happy with stuff and decided to leave. And can you imagine the worry maybe in your organization when you have over $1 million of volume in a leg, and that the top of that leg or the leaders are leaving? Well, what I want to teach you about building firewalls is, if you've noticed what a firewall is, and my background is in fire science. I was a paramedic and a firefighter in Tucson, Arizona. The part that most people don't realize is that if you look at a strip mall, and by code, every so often, especially in between the different, a lot of times it's a different lease or a different company, that when they do a build out, or depending on how the structure is, they'll build a firewall in between, let's say, the 2 stores in the strip mall. And if you learn to see them, you'll see it from the street, and you'll see it because the wall that goes up between the stores goes past the ceiling, past the roof line, and goes in and up through, and maybe it's 2 or 3 foot past the actual roof line. You can see it from the outside. I see Chris nodding, and a few people that build or have done that before, and you'll start to spot it from the road. And I don't know, when I started teaching this, I started getting 2 or 3 people a week that would send me a picture of a building with firewalls. And it was fun to say, hey, look at this, it has 6 firewalls. I'm like, yeah, what does that mean? And it was reminding them of their business and what to do. And it's the sad part of it is, we showed up to some of those who had a fire in one of those buildings. And what happened is, the fire starts in an actual building. It goes both directions in the middle of that strip mall until it hits one of those firewalls. And then that firewall doesn't stop the fire, but it's usually a 1 or 2 hour rating that slows it down, right? It'll hit that firewall. It's usually a double insulated, double drywalled wall. Every pipe that goes through has to be fire taped, and on and on. There's a bunch of code, but it goes up to the roof, and it gives time for the fire department to get there, and it stops the bad stuff, stops the fire. And I don't know if you guys have seen, you guys can go online and just type in firewall fires, and you'll see where the fire had burnt out an entire building, the center of it, because that one store within the structure caught on fire. The fire hit the firewalls, burned up the sides, and that entire business is gone. But it didn't go any farther, right? Either the fire department got there in time, or hit the firewalls, burned through the roof, and then the entire section is on the ground. But they can rebuild and start there. Now, that concept I was teaching for a long time. I would teach it a little bit quiet. I wasn't just saying, hey, I'm building a firewall with you, right? But what happened is, relationships became natural firewalls, because when that group left, and I hope you guys hear this correctly, when that team or those leaders of that team left, top leaders in the company had spent a lot of stage time, had a lot of credibility. They had maybe lost some of that credibility themselves, or with whatever they were doing or teaching that wasn't in line with what people believed. But what happened was, I got about 25 phone calls in about 48 hours when that took place. Guess who I got the phone calls from? My circles. I got the phone call from all of the individuals who we had went down and either taught, they trusted us, we were consistent, we showed up, we did what we say we were going to do, We followed through. We were optimistic. We were there for them when they needed it. And I got a call from 25 people and I just said, I am here. I'm here to help you. And we're not changing anything. We're running. And out of over $1 million in volume, I won't say the exact number. It was quite a bit higher. We lost, I think, maybe $62,000 or $65,000 dipped in the months after that meltdown, or what we thought was going to be a meltdown. And nothing really changed. We went back and built with those leaders, actually going into those organizations and supporting them in a very simple, consistent way, teaching these principles. We built more circles. We went down in more depth, and we ended up finding more leaders down in those organizations. And many of those leaders, you guys, are in the building depth room when we go to our events, or even on stage now, teaching you guys some of the principles. So what's fun about the concept is if you learned to keep going down in depth, and I teach depth a lot of ways. It's not just digging a well financially, and that's one concept of the well. But to me, it's building your character depth, and it's building your circle depth in leaders, because you have firewalls and you have people who trust you. You have people adapted to a system. When we got into our accident, you guys, I woke up in the hospital, found out my 2 daughters were paralyzed. My wife lost her leg. I wasn't supposed to walk again. They reconstructed my whole face. It was crushed on the right side of my face. Big changes took place. And I had a little thought of being worried about stuff. We had just hit the top rank of the company 1 month prior to that accident, you guys. That's part of the stories of little pieces I don't think people realize. We worked hard, hit that rank. 1 month later, ended up realizing that we needed every bit of that depth that we had built in character. We needed every bit of the depth that we had built in the financial realm, and we needed every bit of the leadership depth, because we could not show up the next day to do presentations. I remember calling everyone, letting them know what was going on, making sure everyone was covered to do what I said was going to do, make sure nothing fell through. But I had 2 daughters paralyzed, asking all kinds of questions, dealing with crazy amounts of stuff. We were writing checks for it was over a couple $1 million in bills that insurance didn't cover. We were able to negotiate some of those down and get everyone paid 100%. But it was amazing to have finances not be the headache, right? To have in a tragedy like that, being able to just step back, and guess what, you guys? The meetings happened. Leaders were already planning on doing them, or they were stepping in. The few that I had, people stepped in because they were down in depth. They understood the principles. They knew how to do a presentation. We didn't start to teach them how to do a presentation after, right, the tragedy happened. We were doing that from the very, very first time we met them. We had a system of note cards. The brand new person would be invited to come share one principle, and sometimes they'd fail miserably. And all we did is go up after them and kind of mop up the mess, say, attaboy, attagirl, and we meet after, IHOP. We always ordered chicken Florentine crepes at 1 a.m. We had a little tradition of going there as a leadership team afterwards and helping those individuals with what they did. This was good. This was what we can work on. This part was awesome. We would work with them and to help them feel confident in what they did. Now, that turned into a bunch of leaders that were already ready to take over. Nothing changed. Volumes continued to grow. Bills were paid. I was able to spend time with my family. We got right back on stage a couple months later and spoke to everyone. I think there was over 6,000 people at that next event. And we got on stage and told our story, and was grateful. I shared it in gratitude because I do not know, well, as a medic, I do know many families who end up with that big of tragedy who don't have the support and finances and security. And it's sad when I dealt with that tragedy when you see families get split up and the stress it puts on all kinds of things in your life when that's going on. I was grateful. I stood up in gratitude and just said thank you. I was grateful for our team to go to work and work hard and follow their commitments. I was grateful for the company to do what they said we're going to do and pay checks and develop good products that we could rely on. I was grateful for, those that supported us during that time, the finances that came in and to pay bills. But I can tell you the biggest thing was for us to realize that the leadership that was developed could care less if we were there or not, right? And I say that with a little bit of light, but me being there or not didn't dictate their success. They weren't only going to be successful if I showed up. We had already given them the reins. Marcell says we passed the baton, right? And I used to say that in general, and then we had to start clarifying, because passing the baton, right? When you're in a relay race, you don't just throw it at them. That passes, you reach out and hold it, and they reach back and grab it. So the pass is a very cordial and skilled handoff, right? It's not something you throw at them and hope they catch it. You hold it out there, and the right people will grab it. And the circles we're talking about, you guys, from what it took to get down to Brennan Cunningham and that group that puts in over $1 million a month, and then you look down into the leaders in this call that are on our team, down through Dan and Sarah and Chris, and another leg. We have an entire other leg down, and we found, like I mentioned to you earlier, with Rob and Summer. When you look at that big of organizations, we have people that aren't, some of their team is in building depth, but Chris Michaels at their level and all the work done in Mexico. We have stuff done in I think we have volume in every country that we're open in, whether I've been there or not. I'm actually heading out to Japan to help with a meeting they're doing out there in January 22nd. So we get to travel the world and support all these teams and these circles that show up way down in these organizations to support. But having volume in every country, not because I have friends there, but because we built leader, down to database, down to another leader, and we're able to make that happen. So I'm looking at the time here, and I want to wrap up, but I just want you guys to maybe put a couple pieces together here. I'm sharing these with you to one, maybe give you a little bit of that far enough ahead to inspire, to realize that you guys, when you have organizations and you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in 5 different organizations, there's not a lot that pulls that apart. People can come and go, and people just kind of say, that's fine if you don't see it, we're still here. When you have a system like Building Depth, and everyone's chanting the same skill set, the same principles and behaviors down to the very bottom of every organization, that is the power. That is what allows you to go take care of life, expected or unexpected, right? I didn't expect to step away to take care of daughters that were in an accident, and a wife that wanted to chase a dream of being an Olympian, which if you guys want to come to the Paralympics out in LA in 28, I think we can all have some fun watching her play. It is fun to be able to watch your wife, your kids at any level, through any tragedy, chase dreams, keep your head up and work. And it's not just the money that makes that happen, you guys. It's you, it's the personality, it's the people that hang around, it's the optimism, it's the circles that we play in. When my kids come home from events, Building Depth events and corporate events, and they're quoting people and they have their own notebooks. And one time my daughter, I think I told you guys this, but we have a whiteboard at home. And one time on this whiteboard, she said, you better start building your own dreams before someone hires you to build theirs. And my daughter's name was on. I said, where'd you get that? She said, someone said that at our last event. I didn't catch it. She did. It was important to her. And she realized that ownership was important. This is a girl who is now in a wheelchair, owns her own house, owns a few properties, rents them out, makes money. She has her hands in about 5 different investments. And as a 26-year-old, single girl living by herself and taking care of everything on her own in her wheelchair, and bringing in between $15,000 and $25,000 a month in income from living principles that were taught here, including having her own business and organization in this company. I just want you guys to know that it's fun when the legacy gets left. right? I see the legacy through some of you guys, and I get excited. I get really excited when I see my youngest 18-year-old son talking the same principles and behaviors, the same legacy type communication, and it is valuable. It is back to my first point that I started with. It is what is truly valuable. The sacrifice that it took, the time it takes to not just write a check, but to go build the house, so to speak. Not just write a check, but put all we got a 20-foot box trailer full of stuff we're driving down to give to people in Mexico. Not just talking about it, but doing it. And it's true value, you guys. And if that inspires you a little bit, I hope it does. The reality of working through somebody's database to get to where you need to be is great. Sometimes they don't see it. The last concept I'll probably share is sometimes you believe in them more than they believe in themselves. Many of you on this call have leaders who are loving on you and believe in you, even if you have bad days, you don't quite believe in yourself. There's a big group of people, and it may not even be in your upline. We're just here as leaders to say, we got your back. We know you can. We'll love on you until you decide, or realize that you can. But I'm hoping throughout the end of this month, beginning of next year, all through next year, that some of you guys step up and make a few changes and run at a different pace. Make this a priority, because eventually it'll start to change. Things will become saturated. Things will change. We're not there yet. We have some time, but I think sometimes we get comfortable with that time, and we talk about how early we really are, and so people kick back a little bit. And I wish that would be off. I wish the talking about being early would actually, quicken our pace and lengthen our stride and help us to actually run a little bit faster, because I do not know when something in your life is going to happen. I hope never, but I'll be the first one to tell you when it does. It is amazing to have depth of character, depth in your organization, depth in leadership, and depth in your finances. And you're not ever relying on one source, one thing, one group to build something for you. It's built, it's done. The last thing I'll say is there are too many people talk about, the speed of leader, speed of the pack, and they kind of play that out forever. But Marcell and I could probably step back and respectfully tell you that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. I do not want you to ever think that you have to put 80 hours a week when you're making 6 figures a month and you want to go spend some time with family. You can. Just don't think. I mean, we will be here to help you and support. And I think there's a character. I won't call it a character flaw, but maybe that we can't just retire and walk away. I don't think that's in our nature, because we always see the power of that one more meeting, that one more conversation, that one more person that says yes, and what it can do to their family. But not having to do this is a sense of security that is amazing. And when we got in that accident, we woke up and I was able to sit down by my daughters and be there at 2 a.m. when they had the big, hard questions about life. And here's my teenage daughters that were going to be volleyball stars are now paralyzed. To be able to have those conversations with them one-on-one, face-to-face, not have to be at a job. You know how many times, you guys, I had a conversation with my daughter where we both just sat there and cried for hours. And I purposely opened my calendar, looked at my fire schedule, and realized that if I was still on the fire department, 9 out of 10 times it was a green day, which means it's a C-shift day. I would have been at work. I would not have been there to have that conversation with my daughter. But because we put in the time, walked away from that job, and had a different type of income coming in when this took place, we were able to be there face-to-face with the people that had true value to us. Right, with the people that we had sacrificed the most for and with, and we ended up being in a situation where we could be vulnerable, we could be with them, we could be present, we could say yes to everything they needed, vacations and stuff and things. Now, I don't believe in giving your kids everything. I actually tell people that I believe in giving them just enough to do something, but not enough to do nothing. Right? You'll hear my kids laugh at that. Yeah, but Dad will help me out. He'll help me start a business, but he won't run it for me. He'll let me fail a little bit, and he won't just give me a pile of money so I can do nothing in life, because I don't think that's what we're doing this for. We're doing this to give them something, to give them a leg up, to give them a path, and that legacy is what I want to leave with you tonight. The circles is the path. The depth is how we do it. Leader back by leader, work through their databases, and help them learn, help them do, and teach them to be mentors of themselves. When they start doing the things that you were doing last week, that they're doing today, and their people do tomorrow, you literally have this I won't say retirement because it's a voodoo word in this industry, but you have left a legacy. You could get an accident and walk away and be okay. You could maybe retire. Maybe there's an idea that you want to go spend time, or I know some people go do some mission work or church work, or they can step away. There is a path in this industry that allows you to not shake bushes the rest of your life and enroll 50 people every month. And there's a path. And I'm not telling you when that is or where that is, but when you have 5 different teams, right, that have leader backed by leader backed by leader, they're doing their own thing with or without you, you have some security, and that is amazing. So think about that. I hope this just gives you some things to think about on this Christmas season. Go give a little bit. Go build this business and give them this gift. We have something so special. When families in town, don't use that as an excuse to sit back and wait to start. Use that as an excuse to plant seeds, find the people you love. They're the ones you're hanging around with for the next couple of weeks. Find a creative way to look at them in the eyes, give them a hug, and tell them that you're looking for a business partner to work with. And I think you guys will be planting seeds. And those that do that will have a great January, February, March. I think those that wait to start in January will have a slow January, February, March, and they'll wonder what happened during some of the best times of people committing to get their credit cards down and wanting better health. We got a lot, all that's coming, you guys. People get done with the holidays, they need to pay back their cards, and they need to get themselves back in a financial position, and health-wise, they usually eat too much on the holidays, get that back. So guys, I love you. I wish I could talk to each of you individually. I do apologize for the lighting and stuff we're doing. We're traveling and didn't want to cancel this trip to make this call work, but just pulling over, making it happen. Marcell, thanks for jumping on. Chris, Sarah, thank you guys. Sarah, I'll turn it back to you to close and any thoughts. And hope you guys took some notes, some good quotes, some thoughts, and made some commitments and goals. And I hope you guys start drawing out that 5x5 circle. And when somebody quits or falls out, move them out of the way, move everyone up, and keep that thing full. 25 people should be full all the time, 5 wide, 5 deep. That's who you're working with. If somebody quits, pull them out of the line, bump everyone up, go down again and help the bottom person again, and let's keep this thing moving. And if everyone on this call had a 5x5 metrics, you guys, we would have a legacy built for hundreds and thousands of families. So what we're talking about with this structure is not just a concept. We're proving it works. We're proving it can happen. We're proving normal people can do it. And we're proving that if you do it, you'll leave a legacy, and your grandkids will say thank you someday. So love you guys. Sarah, back to you. Thank you.
Wow, Blue. I could just listen. It feels like I think all of us are kind of glued to our seat here. Thank you so much for sharing your nuggets, your wisdom, your path and your journey. It's so inspiring. And I know each person on here took something away that they can put into practice tomorrow. That's the greatest part about what we have here, the leadership, the mentorship. There was something that Blue or Marcell said that you can take today and put into action for tomorrow. And you guys, we have 72 days until we see you in person in St. George. So buildingdepth.com, get on there, get yourself registered. The hotel discounts are there. It's going to be phenomenal. We cannot wait to see you in person. So with that, we're going to wrap this call, and thank you everyone for your leadership, for showing up tonight like you have to really lean into the presidential path. So with that, have a Merry Christmas already. I can't even believe it. We'll see you soon. Take care.